you know, I said before, I was a fan of film long before I was an actor, and if I ever give up acting, I'll be a fan of film until my last breath. I don't know if I'll act till my last breath, but I love film so much, I still get giddy. So when I see that Stingray on the set that day, I got giddy. When I was told that we're going to do voiceovers and the voiceover dialogue started come to me, knowing that it's a trope that's been honoured for decades in cinema and television, I got excited. I get excited. I feel like those kind of things are linked to the lineage of storytelling in the audio and visual world, you know. William Holden's voice, you know, I mean, it was one of the clearest, you know, memories I have, recollections I have of cinema is William Holden's voice, you know, sitting at the window at the Altaneda just up the road here on Vine, and now I live here, and I saw it in Dublin when I was 17, you know. There I was, a writer, sitting at the, you know, it's like gorgeous. And so then I get to do, I'm told, well, we're going to do some voiceovers. I'm like, fuck yeah, like I get giddy, you know.
Audrey, I'm going to start with you because I loved diving into this world, and I love thinking about where this came from, the blank page. So I'd love for you to start with your journey to bring us into the world of sugar.
So Mark Protasevich wrote Sugar as a Spec and had shared it with Simon Kinberg and I, and we honestly just flipped for it the minute we read it. Sugar on the page was fantastic. And we were so compelled to bring the character of John Sugar to life. And from there, I mean, we just started to dream about who could be John Sugar, how could we put this together, who could direct it. And once we got Colin, I think it all kind of clicked in and came together. So that's how it started for us.
I'm going to ask you this quick follow-up because Mr. Farrell is Irish, so they're self-deprecating and modest to a fault. But I think we all know.
That's just shame in disguise.
You know. We all know that it would take an incredible actor to be able to bring the charisma and humility and also just danger that is John Sugar. What made you know what we all know now, which is that Colin is the perfect person to bring that to the screen? We all know. Yes. What did you guys see that was like, this is going to be our John Sugar?
Well, Colin is a classic. Sorry, Colin, to talk about you this way, but
Uber for Farrell
has classic leading man looks and is formidable, and almost feels like.
Told you, Amy.
Should I keep going?
Wasn't I always telling you?
Should I
classic,
keep going?
formidable.
Oh gosh. Keep going. We're loving it.
Drives a car well. Yeah, keep going. Well, he had all the traits that Sugar needed on the page, but Colin is also incredibly witty, charming, chivalrous, dare I say, kind. And so he brought a whole other dimension to it. Can I keep going or should I stop?
Keep going.
Actually, I will say just a little bit more because...
Mic drop.
No.
Thank you.
Well, I will say this to you, Colin, sir. John Sugar, I think, is a character that many actors would dream to play because I think in this first episode, we see you speak 4 different languages, including a very particular American accent. We see you do stunts and also something that is very underrated, I think, but a lot of actors will appreciate, incredible voiceover work, which is something that's very hard to do. What was it that drew you into the character of John Sugar and more particularly why you wanted to get involved?
The initial hook was thank you for your kind words and your complimentary emasculation of me. It's amazing but it's just so lovely. It feels like I should leave before I fucking open my mouth and ruin everything you said. But to be honest with you, it was shooting in Los Angeles was the most attractive thing to me because nothing shoots here, ironically. They don't make films and they don't make very many TV shows in Hollywood. Everything goes to another city, another state or abroad because of tax breaks and so on and so forth. And I get tired of leaving my kids, especially as the road shortens ahead of us and, you know, there's going to be leaving and going to college and all that jazz. So that was the initial thing. It really had me excited. And I think that Los Angeles is such a multifaceted and magic place. I mean, just as far as the socioeconomic disparity goes, as far as the music scene goes, the surfing scene, the movies, the amount of people here who are just grafting just to provide for their families, East LA where I live close to, and then it's so sprawled. It's like 12 cities in search of a center, you know. So to know that it was going to be captured on film or with a television camera or whatever. And through the eyes of, I knew Fernando was attached pretty early, and having loved Fernando Meirelles' work, I thought his lens and how he views the world, and with the kind of incredibly compassionate heart Fernando has, which is represented in all the films and the stories that he tells, I thought he'd be an amazing lens through which to view this city. And John Sugar at the centre of this whole thing was lovely as well. It was really lovely. It was a gorgeous character because it honoured the tropes of the genre of noir, but there was this kind of gentleness and compassion where usually, you know, characters, in my experience of observing that are at the centre of noir pieces, they're hard-boiled, understandably. They're jaded. They're embittered by the more ugly and dark aspects of the human condition that they have seen expressed through their years of working on cases. And they're cynical, I suppose is the clearest word. And this guy wasn't at all. He had at his core a profound belief in the decency of human beings, which wasn't really as a result of any delusion. He had been exposed to some of the uglier aspects, but he still believed in the fundamental good of women and men. And that was lovely. It just felt kind of singular and unique, you know?
It also provides, and it was, some unique challenges too for the character, because to that point, that sort of earnestness and that unfappable sort of like, not guilelessness, but just the belief in people is something that's hard to play without coming off as maybe Pollyannish. There's also all the languages I talked about. There's the sort of the style and the look of it. What did you find to be the most challenging aspect of John Sugar in the episodes that will be to come? Because you do a lot, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, I think to maintain a sense of belief in the decency of human beings, I think that's a very active position to take. There's nothing passive about that. I think if we look around us on the streets or if we turn on the news, we are given ample kind of evidence that we are doomed. Like we're doing a shitty job with this experiment of the human condition. We really are fucking letting each other down at every turn, left and right. But there is also an enormous amount of good in the world, and the good exists in whispers and the bad exists in screams. You know, so it's easier to be faced with and be aware of all the bad and all the violence and all the pain and stuff. And so Sugar, by the end of it, Sugar pays a price for his beliefs and for how he moves through the world. I mean, he does pay a price. He pays a personal price. He becomes almost subject of the violence by the end in a pretty significant way that he abhors. And so that was tricky enough, I suppose, but also I thought it was responsible, that it wasn't just Pollyanna-ish. It wasn't just someone that, human beings are great and stuff. Like he almost, you know, and he said, you scream into the void, be careful you don't become the void. He almost becomes the void that he's faced with, you know? So that was interesting.
Yeah, and there's many people, but there's two women that are very key, I think, to what we see as we follow John through this journey. And that, of course, is Amy and Kirby, what you bring to this. And I will just say, folks, what we see in this episode 1, you have no idea. These ladies are bringing so much more to it. But Amy, talk a little bit about for you, because I will even say the introduction of your character is quite an interesting one. She gets drunk, pass out, and propositions him. I mean, we have it all right there. But
just doing my job.
Yeah, listen. Love that. I'd love for you to tease a bit of some of the other shades that we're going to get to see throughout this series. Because again, like I think with every character that you see in this first episode, trust me, there's so many chapters to come. I'd love it if you could sort of tease out what folks can expect with how she relates to John and the world we're in.
Yeah, Melanie presents as, you know, she's a successful woman in her 20s who seems to, although she's not performing, you know, she lives well. She has her, you know, money. She has a good house. But it's not, you know, it's shaky. It's shaky underground. She's still battling her own personal demons. And yet I think when she meets Sugar, it's not, yes, it starts as a proposition, a drunken night, but she can recognize there's a kinship, a brokenness, a friendship. And then I have to credit Colin, same in like the genre, the femme fatale, like these two will end up together, and not giving anything away, but he's like, let's lean into the friendship of it. Why do they recognize something in each other? And even though it's a friendship, what I loved playing throughout, that friendship it's just not like we're friends, we trust each other. Like the trust is gained and broken and gained and broken throughout, because as in life, like, especially if you haven't figured things out in your 50s, like, the guards are up, they come down just momentarily. And I love this woman who appears so strong and fearless and who can perform, but yet is still hasn't quite got stuff together,
And you're right. One of the things I remarked in the first episode is this idea of like she knows without knowing that there's a lot more to John Sugar, but she feels it. Mm-hmm. Whereas in your character, Kirby knows it. And that is the reason why it's so interesting seeing her so, I would not even say afraid, but concerned in this opening episode. Somebody that knows where the proverbial bodies are buried is also the person that's most scared. And we see this very confident person. And it's interesting, I think, playing that as an actor, because your page one read of your character is very different than, say, Amy's, who's maybe going to discover things as it goes along. You have to hide some of the things that you know about the characters throughout.
Yeah. Well, I think in keeping with the genre, Ruby is sort of not exactly as no one is exactly as they appear to be, and I think that's part of the noir, right? You're slowly uncovering things, and like you said, some people are. You see, their cards straight away, and other people have something to hide. I think it's really fun playing someone that knows more than they can let on. I think that's part of the sort of dance you're playing with both the audience and also the other people that you're working with. Yeah.
What do you think was the most challenging aspect for you going into this one? Because as I like to say, the later chapters of this, just get to it, kids, if you can. Make sure your Apple subscription is paid up. Listen, there's a lot more that you get to do towards the end of this. What would you say if you could tease a little bit about some of the things that your character gets to show in the later episodes?
Yeah, I think in some of the later episodes, to what you were saying, in the beginning, you meet Ruby and she's very confident, very in control. I think in the later episodes, you see a little more of the vulnerability. You see the sort of, though you don't see it, you understand the deep history between herself and Sugar and all the things that she has watched and been part of. Challenges. I struggled with this one. I struggled before, and Colin did remind me of one of the challenges, which was when I filmed with the cat, and the cat kept showing its butt, and that I didn't remember until Colin did remind me.
Cat loved a close up,
and I actually said it more delicately than Colin.
We
did.
can only see one eye. That's not an eye.
There you go.
That's not an eye.
I was trying to be polite. But yeah, that might be the greatest challenge. So stay tuned, and you'll see that.
Hey, that is acting, ladies and gentlemen.
I was really doing it, and I would really stay in it. I was a professional, so I really would try my best.
I think the biggest challenge of this is not being upstaged by the cat's ass and that dog. We had our work cut out.
And the dog.
Yeah, the dog. I was going to talk about the dog. Wait a minute. You saw him in the trailer. I'm not spoiling anything. There is a dog. Yeah. Audrey, I want to talk a little bit about the look of Sugar, because I think I use this word. It's scrumptious. It's delectable. It's like I want to just take a bath in every bit of the production design. And I think it definitely harkens back to the neo-noir stuff that, if you watch TCM, you see that, but it's really updated, which is, I think, a difficult needle to thread. So talk about how with the stakeholders, you guys found the look of Sugar.
I think that was something we aimed to do from the outset with the production. And it was important when Fernando Morelos came on board that he was able to create a love letter to classic noir, but at the same time make it feel really contemporary and grounded and intimate. And so the balancing act of finding those two things was probably one of the hardest parts of producing the show. But he brought on his longtime DP, Cesar, who helped create that look, in addition to, using certain camera angles and creating that film noir vibe, they were also shooting it very much like a documentary. So oftentimes there would be natural lighting only. He's running takes and allowing actors to kind of improvise and find in the moment. And so there was a really collaborative kind of openness to how they were shooting. And I think the balance of all that was how we got that kind of intersection of film noir and something that felt incredibly contemporary at the same time.
Yeah, and Colin, I want to take it to you a little bit. Let's be real again. Another part of the dream job. You get some great toys in this one. I mean, the car, the suits, and everything. But I find with actors, there's always a moment in either the pre-production or when it's in the script or rehearsal phase where the character really feels like you know and understand them. And when the character is complicated as sugar, I was wondering, was there a particular tangible moment that you had where you really felt like, oh, I get it now? Or was it really from, the script and immediately?
No, but that leaves me with an aspiration for any potential for season 2. Maybe I can have a day at the office where I come home and go, I got it today. One day.
Not yet.
I want to say as well, that if there's one, honest to God, if there was one connective tissue that brought all the elements of this show together from the start until the end, and one, because we did have, as shows, films, any process that involves a lot of people in life we had bumps, many of them on the road. Audrey Chon, and I'm not just saying it, single-handedly, individually, not Apple, not Simon Kinberg, not everyone, God bless them all. Checks were signed and people cared. Don't get me wrong. But Audrey Chon was on the ground, on the front lines, and in the back offices, and she was the connective tissue between so many, and what a brilliantly creative mind, and what an impassioned human being. So the show wouldn't have got completed, I'm just telling you that. There was no horrors, I'm not divulging any major, I'm not dropping a bomb or anything, but she was extraordinary and is extraordinary. She is single-handedly kind of the greatest reason why the show exists. That's the truth, so... put that in your pipe and smoke it. So anyway, that's the truth. No, you've said your bit, man.
I want to say one thing.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He's just saying that because I'm right here. Just for
True.
Well,
but anyway, there's that.
No, I mean
amazing. Like, honest to God, true or not?
I back you up. I absolutely back that.
Yeah. So there you have it. Great. Sugar was no, I didn't.
And he has said that not when you're not around. Yeah. He has said that when you're not around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As while I was rehearsing what I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly. When he asked me, does this sound good? Should I say
Yeah. Too much, too little? Do you think she'll buy it? Yeah.
Can I leave now? It feels like
I think he's getting you back for you talking so nice about it. It's just a love fest here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good thing the show's called Sugar because it's sweet. I was waiting to do that at some point. Listen, we all rehearse our lines. Colin, I also wanted to say, I know you're a huge film fan and film buff, and from the opening shot in that black and white through the little moments where we're having references to classic film, that also must have been a treat for you. Did you kind of have conversations about, were all of those on the script or were some of those added in later?
No, they were added in later, and even as a device, they weren't inbuilt into the script. It was something that I think... Fernando and Cesar, his DP, who he's worked with a number of times, and their editor, Stutz, who was based in Brazil. Stutz, I think it was his idea initially, was it to kind of integrate all these film clips? And it was just a way in which Sugar experienced the world. And it was kind of a visual motif in the same way that the audio motif of a voiceover exists within the genre. So it was kind of the voiceover, but given a visual slant, I thought it was lovely. And as far as the toys go, the car and the whole thing, I mean, I said before, I was a fan of film long before I was an actor, and if I ever give it back to you, I'll be a fan of film until my last breath. I don't know if I'll act till my last breath, but I love film so much, I still get giddy. So when I see that Stingray on the set that day, I got giddy. When I was told that we're going to do voiceovers and the voiceover dialogue started coming to me, knowing that it's a trope that's been honoured for decades in cinema and television, I get excited. I feel like those kind of things are linked to the lineage of storytelling in the audio and visual world, William Holden's voice, it was one of the clearest, memories I have, recollections I have of cinema is William Holden's voice, sitting at the window at the Altanida just up the road here on Vine, and now I live here, and I saw it in Dublin when I was 17, there I was, a writer sitting at the, it's like... Gorgeous. And so then I get to do, I'm told, well, we're going to do some voiceovers. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like I get giddy, you know? And it's also like, I think it's the same reason, of course, why the wonderful Terry Malick uses voiceovers as well, because there is something presentational and artificial every time we open our mouths in public. You know, as much as we try to be honest, there is something performative. And so the voiceover is just an opportunity to get really to the core of what is unspoken in a story sometimes, you know?
Well, on the practical side, and I'll ask Amy and Kirby about this one, I know some of that was added in later, but did they tell you how deep the voiceover was going to be with this? Did you get those line reads on set for those moments where there's certain aspects where he's talking and you're there, but you maybe don't know what's his inner monologue?
Fernando showed me when we were filming the scene at the AA meeting, or the next day rather, he showed me like a quick cut of it into that speech, and same, I got very giddy, and I also thought like, oh, all these iconic scenes and these performances is like, oh, they're pulling me along. Like I have this amazing raft to help my performance, and maybe it's a cheat or maybe it's, I don't know, but I love it. I was like, is that Elizabeth Taylor? Is that like, oh my God. Okay, I hope this works. This is, so yeah, just, you know, in that you make a quick emotional connection with each, you know, what is it, 2-3 seconds of a clip, and you get pulled along. I thought it was stunning, and I do feel like sometimes that, like an AA scene, we've seen it so many times, but I have not seen it quite like that. So when Fernando showed that, I was just like, oh, this is something else. And I thought it was something else from the script, same, the first, from Mark's pilot script, but there we were with this whole other element that was such a great surprise.
I'll do you a quick. Did you don't have as much voiceover because it seems Sugar's very open in his conversations with you. He's not hiding that much. But did they have any of those moments where somebody was sort of off? Again, it's very difficult to act against that. You know what I mean? Than the norm.
Yeah, we didn't. And actually, so much of what I saw at the end was a surprise. The voiceover and the all the film footage. I had no idea that that was a part of it. So that was a really beautiful surprise, actually. And it's rare that you get to be surprised by the work that you also participate in. So that was incredible. I will say I knew, similar to what you're saying, Amy. You know, there are certain things that you're not reinventing the wheel. You've seen it, but there's something about the way Fernando and Cesar work. You can watch something that you've seen before and see it in a completely different way. Like on my first day on set, I remember it was when we were filming at Ruby's house, and I didn't know where one of the cameras was. And that was because Cesar was in a bush, like down at this odd angle filming. And there's just a moment of it, like when Sugar comes up and you see him go to the ground. But it's so stunning the way they work. They can see things. And obviously they are a very trusted team between them, Cesar, Fernando, and Stutz. Like they very much know each other and work, and they are a well-oiled machine. And I think that they make the familiar feel unfamiliar and feel fresh and new, and that's a real joy to be part of.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question with you, Audrey, because that is a part of this. It's within a very known genre. Everybody immediately from even the trailer knows, we know the detective story, we know the beats of a detective story, and that's almost half the battle for it not to feel so familiar that it feels like we're not experiencing anything new. Were there things that you sort of said, like in the storyboarding process, to again make it feel within the genre but outside of it? How did you keep that balance, knowing that you're literally pulling some of the references for folks that are paying attention right from previous versions of these films?
I think that, again, like we talked about before, we embraced all of the familiar, but to make it modern, I mean, I can go down the line here and talk about what we did with our characters. I think with Colin's character, oftentimes in film noir, you don't get a leading man that's accessible. He's brooding and kind of keeping his feelings inside. And with Colin's character, I mean, he was talking about his feelings in voiceover and with characters all the time. So that's something you don't often see in film noir. And I think that made it feel incredibly modern. With Amy as well, if we went the traditional route of making her feel more like a damsel in distress, I mean, boring. We didn't go that route. And I think that having them have a profound friendship that transcends anything that a romantic love could, and have a certain level of trust, was just really interesting for us to explore. And I think that made it feel really modern too. So she wasn't just a sidekick or a damsel in distress. It was just a whole other layer to her character. And with Ruby's character, it was just, I've never seen anyone quite like Ruby in a film noir. So I just think that she brought such a modern feel, and Ruby's the boss of everyone in the show. And you don't get to see a powerful female like Ruby on screen. Yeah. So I think in all those ways, starting with our actors and characters, that helped redefine the show in that way.
Yeah, this is not like Money Penny back at the office. This is really like she is keeping him on his P's and Q's. They're not here, but I would be remiss not to talk about the incredible supporting cast that is also a part of this. You know, James Cromwell. I mean, like, seriously, you guys were blessed. I'd love for you to talk about one of your favorite scene partner moments, if you can, from some of the stuff that you guys get to do later, besides your lovely ladies that you get to have up here. Was there a favorite scene that you got to have with one of the other supporting characters in the show? Colin, I'll start with you.
Just so many.
I mean, again, I'm trying to tease this without giving spoilers, y'all. It's very hard. You know what I'm talking about. James
Cromwell, you know, but there's a short scene with Anna Gunn, and I don't know if it's episode 3 or 4 or 5. It's at the cinema. Yeah, it was a short scene where the two of us are kind of calling each other out in a way that we're not saying it verbally as such, and we're smiling and laughing, but each knows that the other is being called out. And so there's a little bit of kind of almost playful animosity, but not really deep either. And Anna Gunn was just a joy to work with. I had never met her before, and was aware of her, of course, through Breaking Bad and other things. But that scene was fun because it was jousting. And he's not much of a jouster, Sugar. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's always borderline kind of vanilla. He's a really nice guy and all. And so to joust with her a little bit and was fun. So many great actors, as you said, all around, you know, on the show. Everyone that came in for like a day here, there, or 5 days, or whatever, just came in and killed it. It was amazing. And you know, that's what, honest to God, makes a film, or one of the most significant aspects of any film or television show. I'm super excited too. We're all super excited. But it's one of the things that makes TV shows or film shows work, is like every single frame, there is no, like I lose my mind when do you ever work on something and you see, we of course never mention names, but you see that a director doesn't give that much time to somebody who comes in and has a line or two. Fucking drives me mad. And it's not even prudent. It's not even, if the director was truly selfish, they would actually give attention to if they were looking after self, a film being extension of self, etc. And on this, it was just Fernando and Adam Arkin. You know, Adam doesn't get enough of a mention either. Adam came in, Adam Arkin came in and killed it. And, you know, they both just were brilliant with all the cast that came in, and everyone just killed it. It was amazing, yeah.
I will ask you ladies, I know you spend a lot of time with this one, so I'm not gonna, let's be with both, but if you had somebody that you got to work alongside of in this, because again, the cast is just so expansive.
Yeah. Jason Butler Harner plays Henry.
Yeah.
And awesome. Happens to be my best friend.
That's right.
So there's a moment, you know, actually Colin and I had this moment when we were driving the car late at night. I remember you laughing. You're like, what the hell does a kid from Dublin and a girl from Queens have a right to be driving this car down Hollywood Boulevard? And I had the same kind of giggle moment, like appreciation, like, oh my gosh, my best pal here, where, you know, here we are pulling you, you know, you up off the floor. And it's just, you know, I love to be immersed into a project, but I never forget the outside. Yeah. You know, I have this gratitude for being in it and being around people and people I care about. And so it was just such a kind of my own private little treat to get to work with Jason.
That's great. And then Kirby, for you?
I'm racking my brain as to, I was forced
that
to
you
work
can
mostly with Colin. Do you know, I really enjoyed the polyglot day. I really enjoyed that day. It was, I think, I guess some people have seen beyond that. I think it was episode, was that 2 or 3 or 3? So you'll get there. But it was really incredible, actually. I agree. There's these moments where you kind of go, whoa, what a cool job I do. And I feel like that anytime I go to, like, when you go to, I'll say a set, but, a place that no one else will ever, like a few people in the world will ever get to see that place, and you get to go there because you do this job. Like, it feels incredible. And actually being in that room, the day where we filmed that, there are multiple people in that room, multiple other actors or supporting actors, whatever, and they spoke multiple languages. I felt so underqualified in a moment, just like being in this room where some people didn't even get their lines necessarily on camera, but were always in character, were so excited to be there, were bringing so much of themselves, were also so talented, because, it's incredible that we get to do this, but there are countless other talented people who also don't get to be front facing. And it was just really, there's really nice reminders when you do this job and you get to be in a room of people that take their job equally as seriously, and you get to just spend time with them. And I had a really good time that day.
I just have to ask this one. Did you steal any of the suits, Colin? Because I would have to steal at least one. Those suits are incredible.
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't take anything.
Season 2. I mean, they cut him very well. But I will say about that, there's so many, I would say, classic film, mid-century, modern, little touches like that. But the city of Los Angeles is probably the biggest, and how you guys have, I think, removed even some of the modernity from Los Angeles in the shots that you have. I'd love for you to maybe preview some of the incredible places that y'all got to film for this one, because I think folks will be surprised exactly how, again, landmark parts of Los Angeles, but they're just seen in a very different way, even from the hotel in the first episode,
By the way, as she's saying that, I'm going, where did we shoot again? That was 2 years ago.
Oh, wow, I know. Maybe not.
LA is where exactly?
I mean, we obviously were at Griffith Park and Sunset Boulevard, and so you see those iconic places. We also shot in that hotel that you're talking about is actually not a hotel. Yeah, no. So it was.
Yeah, I thought it was.
It was based off of Hotel Bel Air, but there was a house in Altadena. I'm sure someone can buy it out there. And our line producer at the time was like, this could be a hotel, guys. This is what we should use. So we locked that down so we could just control it. And it's so much harder to control a hotel. So we created a lot of the locations that you're seeing.
Well, I love that, because I literally thought that was a real hotel that I'm way too poor to go to.
He wanted to buy it. Do you remember we went there and you were like, can I get this house?
Well, I was thinking,
this is a nice house.
It was just, it was such a huge property. I was thinking it would have been a perfect place to have as a community for special needs adults, for young special needs adults. It was amazing, because it had this swimming pool at its centre. Yeah, special needs adults. Fucking, why not? We had the pool at the center, and then it had all these rooms, and then a main house, and it was in a suburban part of, where was it? Pasadena? Is that where Altadena is?
Yeah.
Close to Pasadena.
Yeah.
It was just really strange, and there are these extraordinary kind of architectural marvels that are all over Los Angeles. I don't know where they are, and that was one of them. So there was a sense of, if something is 100 years old here, it's like, a historical monument, of course. It's such a teenager, this city. But yeah, it was that, and Griffith Park was magic to shoot there that day. It was beautiful, and just driving all around LA. Some of the coolest stuff was just driving on that Stingray at night with the dog, and you know what I mean?
That was a museum.
And it wasn't, and we weren't on the back of a truck or anything. It was just, there was a truck in front of us with a couple of cameras on it, and we were just free to kind of go wherever we wanted. It was magic.
I love that.
Yeah, it was
Thank you all for all that.
Thanks everyone for coming out.
Thank you all for watching.